It was almost midnight when Ethan Miller drove down the old desert road that led home. The sky above him was full of stars, but the world around was silent and empty. The radio was broken, his phone had no signal, and the only sound was the soft hum of his old pickup truck. Ethan was tired. He had worked a 12-hour shift at the factory, and all he wanted was a warm shower and some sleep. The long road stretched ahead, lonely and dark, with no houses for miles. He rubbed his eyes, trying to stay awake. Then he saw something. At first it looked like a piece of trash beside the road. But as his headlights came closer, the shape grew clearer. Someone or something was standing by a road sign tied to it. Ethan blinked, his heart skipping a beat. He slowed down and stopped a few feet away. The wind blew hard and the figure moved slightly. It was a girl. She looked young, maybe 18 or 19. Her hands were tied behind the metal post, her head hanging low. A piece of cardboard hung around her neck with large, messy letters that read, "Take her for a bottle of liquor." Ethan's stomach turned. He got out of the truck, the dry air cold against his face. His boots crunched on the gravel as he walked closer. "Hey, are you okay?" He called softly. The girl didn't answer. Her hair shimmered faintly under the moonlight. When Ethan reached her, he froze. Her skin was glowing, not brightly, but enough to see a soft blue light beneath it, like there were tiny stars under her skin. He stepped back, confused and frightened. "What the hell?" he whispered. The girl lifted her head slowly. Her eyes opened, silver and bright like two pieces of metal catching the light. She looked straight at him and whispered in a trembling voice, "Don't let them find me." Ethan felt a chill crawl down his back. Who's after you?" She didn't answer. Her breathing was shallow, her lips dry. Her wrists were red where the rope cut into her skin. Whatever had happened to her, it wasn't good. Ethan looked around. The desert was empty, but he had the strange feeling that someone or something was watching him. He hesitated. He could drive away, pretend he never saw this. But he couldn't leave her like this. Cursing under his breath, he pulled out his pocket knife and cut the rope. The girl fell into his arms, weak and shaking. Her body was strangely light, almost weightless. He carried her to the truck and laid her gently on the seat. Her eyes half opened again. "You shouldn't have stopped," she murmured. "Now they will come. Who will come?" Ethan asked, starting the truck. Her voice was faint. "The hunters." The engine rumbled to life and Ethan pressed the gas pedal. The truck rolled down the road, headlights cutting through the darkness. He glanced at her again. Her skin still glowed softly like a fading ember. He tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was some kind of body paint? Or maybe she had escaped from a lab. But deep down he knew this was something else, something not human. The girl suddenly sat up, her silver eyes wide. "They are here," she whispered. Ethan looked into the rearview mirror. At first there was nothing. Then far behind them, a light appeared in the sky. It wasn't a car. It wasn't a plane. It moved too smoothly, too silently. The light split into 3 smaller lights, all following his truck. Ethan's pulse raced. "What is that?" he muttered, pressing harder on the gas. The girl reached out and grabbed his arm. "Don't look back," she said. "Just drive." The lights grew brighter, closer. The truck rattled over the rough road, dust flying behind them. Ethan's hands were shaking. Suddenly, a beam of white light shot down from the sky and hit the ground just behind the truck. The earth shook and a flash lit up the desert like daylight. Ethan swerved, barely keeping control. "What are they doing?" he shouted. "They are trying to take me," she said. Her voice was calm now, almost sad. "If they take me, I will never see your world again." Ethan had no idea what she meant. None of this made sense. But one thing was clear. Those lights were chasing her. And if he kept her with him, they would chase him too. Still, he couldn't bring himself to throw her out. "Hold on," he yelled as another beam hit the road ahead, blasting sand and fire into the air. The girl's glowing hand touched the dashboard. For a second, all the truck's lights flickered and the engine roared louder. Ethan didn't understand how, but the truck seemed faster now, like something was pushing it forward. The lights behind them began to fade. The sky went quiet again. Ethan kept driving until the beams disappeared completely. He finally slowed down, gasping for breath. The girl leaned against the window, weak but alive. Ethan looked at her and said, "Who are you?" She turned her glowing eyes toward him and whispered, "My name is Leora." Then her head fell against the seat, and she passed out. Ethan drove on through the night, his hands gripping the wheel, his mind full of fear and questions. Behind them, Far away in the desert, a strange machine landed softly on the ground. 3 tall shadows stepped out, scanning the sand. A cold mechanical voice said, "Target escaped. Begin tracking." The morning light crept through the small cracks in Ethan's window. He had not slept much. All night he kept waking up to check on the girl. The strange, glowing girl who now lay on his old couch, wrapped in a blanket. Her name was Leora. She looked peaceful now, though faint blue light still pulsed under her skin, like veins of starlight. Ethan sat at the table with a cold cup of coffee, staring at her. Every few seconds she shimmered, just slightly, as if her body was breathing in light instead of air. He rubbed his eyes. "What are you?" he whispered when she woke. Her silver eyes opened slowly, reflecting the sunlight. She blinked and looked around the small, messy living room, the wooden floor, the dusty shelves, the old TV. Her expression was confused but calm. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice soft but musical. "You're in my house," Ethan said. "You were on the road last night, tied up. I brought you here." Leora sat up, pulling the blanket around her. Her eyes darted to the window. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quickly. "They will come," Ethan frowned. "Who, those lights in the sky?" She nodded slowly. "The hunters. They trade lives, like bottles, like your people trade things they do not need." Her words sent a chill through him. "You're saying someone sold you?" "Yes," she whispered. "Humans did. They gave me away for drink. I was traded." Ethan's mouth went dry. He wanted to say it wasn't possible and that no one could do something so cruel, but the sign around her neck flashed in his mind. "Take her for a bottle of liquor." He stood up, pacing. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but you can stay here until we figure this out. Nobody's going to hurt you again, all right?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Why help me?" "Because it's the right thing," he said simply. Her silver eyes softened. "Right thing," she repeated quietly, like she was testing the words. Ethan tried to make her eat, but she refused the food. Instead, she walked to the window and let the sunlight touch her hand. The glow in her skin brightened. "Light feeds me," she said. "It keeps me alive." He stared, amazed. "So you don't eat at all?" She smiled faintly. "Not as you do." For a moment there was peace. The wind moved softly outside and the world felt almost normal. But Ethan's dog, Max, began to growl. His ears pointed toward the door. Ethan's heart tightened. "What is it, boy?" Max's growl grew louder. He moved to the window and barked once, sharp and afraid. Ethan walked over and peeked through the curtains. Something was out there. 3 tall figures were moving slowly through the field behind the house. Their bodies were covered in dark metal, their heads glowing with white masks. The sunlight reflected off their armor like polished glass. "Leora," Ethan whispered. "We've got company." She froze. "They found me." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Those are the hunters?" She nodded, her eyes full of fear. "They smell my light." Outside, the figures moved closer. One of them raised a small device. A red beam swept across the yard, scanning everything. Ethan felt his stomach twist. He ran to the door and locked it, pushing the couch in front of it. "We have to hide." Leora's voice trembled. "If they enter, I can stop them. But only once." Ethan grabbed her arm. "You're not fighting them alone." The sound of metal footsteps echoed on the porch. The door shook once, on twice, none, then a loud bang. Splintered the wood. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They rushed into the kitchen and down to the basement stairs. Ethan pulled the door closed behind them. The air down there was cold and smelled of dust and oil. He hid Leora behind a stack of old boxes. Above them, footsteps creaked on the floorboards. A low robotic voice said, "Life form detected." Energy trace confirmed. Ethan grabbed a rusty pipe from the floor, his hands shaking. The sound of metal boots came down the stairs. The first figure appeared, tall, human-shaped, but with glowing lines across its armor. Its face was a smooth white mask with no eyes, only a red circle in the center. It turned its head slightly, the red circle glowing brighter. "Surrender the specimen." Ethan swung the pipe with all his strength, hitting the mask. The sound was like metal hitting stone. The creature barely moved. It grabbed him by the neck and lifted him off the ground. Ethan gasped, struggling to breathe. Then, behind the boxes, a bright blue light exploded. Leora stepped out, her entire body glowing like a star. The creature turned toward her, but froze mid-movement. The red light on its face flickered and died. The air filled with a deep hum and then silence. The hunter collapsed to the floor, motionless. Ethan dropped to his knees, coughing for air. Leora rushed to him, her glow fading quickly. "I cannot do that again soon," she whispered. "Let's get out of here," Ethan said. Grabbing her hand, they climbed out through the back door, running toward the trees behind the house. When they reached the edge of the forest, Ethan looked back. His house stood still in the sunlight, until a massive shadow passed over it. A black aircraft hovered above the roof, silent and smooth, scanning the ground with white beams. Leora's grip tightened on his hand. "They have found us all." Ethan stared as the ship's beam locked onto his truck, and in one flash it vaporized into dust. He whispered, "What do they want from you?" Her silver eyes turned to him. "Not me," she said softly. "What is inside me?" The air around them pulsed with a strange low sound. Ethan grabbed her arm and ran deeper into the forest, the light from the ship chasing them between the trees. The forest was cold and silent as Ethan and Leora ran deeper between the trees. Behind them, the sky still glowed faintly where the black aircraft hovered, its light sweeping across the woods like a searching eye. Ethan's heart pounded. His lungs burned, but he didn't stop. He could hear the distant mechanical hum growing louder again. The hunters were following their trail. When they finally stopped, the moon was high, silver light shining through the tall pines. Ethan leaned against a tree, breathing hard. Leora stood beside him, her glow dim and weak. Her bare feet left faint blue prints on the dirt, glowing for a second before fading. "We can't stay here," Ethan said, looking around. "They'll track us." Leora nodded slowly. "They can smell the energy that I release. But I can hide it for a short time." She closed her eyes. The blue light under her skin faded until she looked almost human again. Ethan stared, amazed. "How did you do that?" She opened her eyes. "Pain," she whispered. "I hide the light by slowing my body." "It hurts." Ethan felt a sting of guilt. "You don't have to do that." "I do," she said softly. "Or we both die." They walked for what felt like hours until they found an old hunter's cabin deep in the woods. The windows were broken, the door half hanging, but it was shelter. Ethan pushed the door open and led her inside. Dust floated in the air and the smell of damp wood filled the small space. There was an old bed frame, a rusted stove, and a cracked mirror on the wall. Ethan looked around. "It's not much, but it'll do for tonight." Leora sat on the floor near the window. Her silver eyes looked lost. "This world. It's loud," she said softly. "It hurts my head. So much pain, so much noise in people's hearts." Ethan didn't know what to say. He sat beside her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "It's not always like this," he said quietly. "Not everyone's bad." She looked at him. "You are not bad." "You stopped," he smiled faintly. "Guess that makes me stupid." She tilted her head. "Or brave." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. For a few minutes they sat in silence. Then Leora touched the cracked mirror. The surface shimmered faintly, showing strange images. Stars, burning cities, and giant silver towers falling into clouds of smoke. "What is that?" Ethan asked. "My world," she whispered. "We lived with light. We gave it freely, but others wanted to own it. They came from far stars and captured us. We were traded, sold, until I escaped." Her voice broke. "But I did not escape alone. There were others. They were taken." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "We'll find a way to stop them. Somehow." Before Leora could answer, Max, the dog who had followed them, started barking outside. His growls echoed through the woods. Ethan stood up, his heart jumping. "Someone's here." He grabbed the old rifle hanging above the fireplace. It was rusty but loaded. He moved to the door and peeked outside. At first he saw nothing. Then from the darkness, 3 glowing masks appeared between the trees. "They found us," Leora whispered. The hunters stepped closer. Their metal bodies reflected the moonlight. They moved slowly but steadily, each step crunching the dead leaves. Ethan raised the rifle and fired. The shot echoed through the forest. One of the hunters staggered but didn't fall. The bullet had only dented its armor. "Run!" Ethan shouted. Leora stood up, her eyes glowing again. "No, I can't run anymore." She lifted her hands. The air around her shimmered like heat on metal. The hunters aimed strange weapons that buzzed with blue sparks. "Target confirmed," one said in a voice that sounded half machine. half human. Recover the specimen. Ethan fired again, but before the bullet hit, the hunter's weapon released a flash of energy. The cabin wall exploded, throwing Ethan to the ground. Leora screamed, not in fear, but power. Her whole body lit up with blinding white light. The air shook like thunder. The hunters froze mid-step. Their glowing masks flickered. For a second, everything went still. Then a wave of energy burst out from Leora, sending dust, wood, and sparks flying everywhere. Ethan shielded his face as the light faded. When he looked up, the hunters were motionless, their armor cracked and smoking. Leora fell to her knees, trembling. Her glow was fading fast. "They will send more," she said weakly. "They always send more." Ethan dropped the rifle and ran to her. "We have to move now." He helped her to her feet, and together they stumbled out of the destroyed cabin. Behind them, the fallen hunters sparked and twitched. As they reached the edge of the forest, Ethan looked back one last time. One of the broken hunters lifted its head slightly, its voice glitching through static. "More. Coming." Then its light went out. Ethan tightened his grip on Leora's hand. "We're going to find somewhere safe," he said. Leora looked at him, her voice almost gone. "There is no safe place on this planet," the sky rumbled. Far above, another light appeared. Not one ship this time, but many, forming a pattern like a web across the stars. Ethan stared in shock. "How many are there?" Leora whispered. "Enough to take a world." The forest ended at a wide stretch of empty land. Far beyond the trees, an old cabin stood near a frozen lake. Its roof sagged, the windows cracked, but smoke still rose faintly from a broken chimney. A sign that someone once lived here. Ethan and Leora reached it just before dawn. The cold air bit their skin and fog moved slowly across the lake like a ghost. Ethan pushed open the door. The cabin smelled of dust, ash, and thyme. "It'll have to do," he muttered, closing the door behind them. Leora sank down by the wall. Her body was dim now, almost gray. The glow under her skin flickered like a dying candle. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her. "You're burning out," he said. "You need light, right?" She nodded weakly. "Sunlight. Starlight. Any pure light." Ethan looked around. The only thing in the cabin that gave light was an old lantern. He pulled out his lighter and lit the wick. The soft yellow flame filled the room with warmth. Leora stretched her trembling hand toward it. The flame bent slightly toward her palm. Within seconds, faint blue veins appeared again under her skin. Her breathing eased. "Better?" Ethan asked. She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Yes, you saved me again," he gave a small smile. "Well, I'm getting used to it." For a long while, neither of them spoke. The sound of the wind against the windows was the only thing in the room. Then Leora's voice broke the silence. "They will not stop," she said. "The hunters. They were made to follow the light." "My kind's light," Ethan frowned. "Who made them?" Leora stared at the floor. "Humans," he blinked. "What?" "Not from this time," she explained. "From your future. Humans that travel across stars. They found my world long ago. They learned to trap our energy and our lifelight, to power their machines. They became powerful. Too powerful. And they began to trade us." Ethan felt cold all over. "So those things chasing us are your own creations," she finished. He stood and began pacing, anger rising in him. "If that's true, we're worse monsters than I thought." Leora's gaze followed him. "Not you. You stopped to help me. That means there is still good left in your kind." Her words softened him. He sat beside her again, and for a while they just listened to the quiet world outside. Then Leora lifted her hand and placed it on his chest. Ethan froze. A soft blue glow passed from her fingertips into his skin. It didn't hurt. It felt like warmth spreading through him. "What are you doing?" he whispered. "I am reading," she said softly. "I can see your memories." He pulled back slightly. "You're reading my mind?" She looked away. "Only what you allow me to see." After a moment, she smiled sadly. "You lost someone." Ethan's throat tightened. "Yeah, my sister. Car crash, years ago." "I saw her in your heart," Leora said. "That pain lives like fire. You hide it, but it burns still." Ethan looked down. "You really can see everything, huh?" "Not everything," she said. "Only truth," he laughed softly. "Then you've probably seen how scared I am too." "Yes," she whispered. "But courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving even when fear follows." Their eyes met, his brown, hers silver, and for a brief moment the room felt lighter. Then the lantern flickered. A low static sound came from the corner of the room. Ethan frowned. What's that? The old radio on the table turned on by itself. Static hissed, then a voice broke through, deep and calm. Leora of the Lightborn, your signal is traced. Do not run again. Ethan's blood ran cold. They found us, the voice continued. The one with you, the human, he will not be harmed if you surrender. Come outside peacefully. Leora's eyes filled with panic. That voice. It's not the hunters. It's the man who commands them. The one who bought me. Ethan grabbed the rifle from the wall. Then he's not taking you again. Ethan, listen, Leora said quickly. If they capture me, they will drain my energy and find others like me. Millions will die. But if I release my power, it can destroy their signal. It will also destroy me. Ethan's chest tightened. There's got to be another way. She shook her head. There isn't. Outside, engines roared. Shadows moved between the trees more than before. The hunters had surrounded the cabin. Their red lights cut through the fog. Ethan turned to her. You can't give up. You said there's light in humans. Let me prove it. He opened the trapdoor under the bed. There's a tunnel. It goes toward the lake. You can escape. Leora stared at him. If I leave, they will kill you. He smiled faintly. Then let's make sure they don't. A loud boom shook the cabin. The door cracked, the air filled with smoke. Ethan pushed Leora into the tunnel. Go. She hesitated, eyes wide with tears. Ethan, go! He shouted. The trapdoor slammed shut above her as the roof burst open. A white beam cut through the smoke and the hunter stepped in. Ethan raised his rifle, heart pounding. Come on then, he muttered. Deep below, Leora crawled through the tunnel, glowing faintly blue in the dark. Her voice trembled as she whispered to herself. He believes, so I must. Behind her, the ground shook. A new light growing brighter, closer. The tunnel ended beneath a broken shed near the lake. Leora crawled out, her body weak, her glow dim. The fog above the water was thick and white, swallowing the world around her. She could still hear the sounds of explosions from far behind. Ethan's cabin burning, wood cracking, hunters shouting in their strange metal voices. She wanted to run back. But Ethan's last words echoed in her head. Go. Tears rolled down her cheeks, glowing faintly as they fell. She turned toward the forest, clutching the pendant Ethan had given her, a small piece of his sister's necklace. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. She whispered, Don't die, Ethan. The morning was gray when she reached the old highway. Her bare feet left tiny blue marks on the wet asphalt. Cars rushed past and loud and bright, but none of the humans inside saw her. She looked too strange, too out of place. People saw only what they wanted to see. At the end of the road stood a small gas station. Leora hesitated before stepping inside. The man behind the counter looked up. Heavy jacket, rough beard, tired eyes. His name tag read Tom. Hey there, he said, frowning. You okay? You look pale. Leora hesitated, trying to remember how to sound human. I need to find someone. His name is Ethan Miller. Tom froze for a second. Ethan, you mean the guy who lives down by the old road? She nodded. Yes, he helped me. Please, I must find him. Tom wiped his hands on a rag. Well, you're a little late. Cops came last night, said something about his house getting attacked. Big fire. He's probably at the hospital now if he made it. Leora's heart clenched. A hospital? Tom nodded slowly. Yeah, you can't miss it, Maple Hill Medical. Leora turned to leave, but Tom's voice stopped her. Wait, you ain't from around here, are you? She didn't answer. Tom stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're that girl they're looking for, ain't you? The one from the news? Leora froze. News? He nodded toward the TV above the counter. The screen showed a grainy image of her face surrounded by flashing words. Dangerous entity, report immediately. Leora stepped back. That is not true. Before she could move, Tom reached under the counter. A hidden red light blinked once, a signal. I'm sorry, miss, he said softly. They said they'd pay. I didn't mean to. The sound of engines filled the air. Outside, black vans screeched to a stop. Men in armored suits jumped out holding weapons that glowed blue. Leora's heart raced. No, she whispered. The door burst open. The man in front wore a long coat and dark glasses. His voice was calm and cold. Leora of the Lightborn, he said. You are under protection of the United Earth Security Division. You will come with us peacefully. Protection. The word sounded like poison. She lifted her hand slowly. Where is Ethan? He's safe, the man said. You will see him soon. but she could feel the lie. The energy in his voice, and sharp and false, burned against her senses. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "You're lying." The man smiled thinly. "You learn quickly." The soldiers raised their weapons. Blue rings of energy formed around her wrists and neck, pulling her down to the floor. The glow from her skin flickered weakly as the collar locked shut. Tom stood frozen behind the counter, guilt in his eyes. "I didn't know they'd hurt her," he whispered. The man in the coat turned to him. "You did your job. Your payment will arrive soon." Then, without looking back, he ordered, "Take her." When Leora woke again, she was lying on a cold metal bed inside a white room. The air smelled of chemicals. Bright lights buzzed above her. Her arms and legs were strapped down. A glass wall stood in front of her, and behind it, Ethan. But something was wrong. He was standing pale and quiet, wearing a hospital gown. 2 soldiers stood behind him. "Ethan," she cried out. He looked up slowly. "Leora, they said they're helping you." Her heart sank. "No, they're not. They're draining me." One of the scientists pressed a button and pain shot through her body. Her glow dimmed as silver liquid flowed through tubes into a machine. Ethan banged on the glass. "Stop it, you're killing her." The man in the coat entered the room beside Ethan. "We're not killing her," he said smoothly. "We're saving humanity. Her energy can power an entire city. Think of what we could do with it." Ethan turned, fury in his eyes. "You can't use her like that." "She's not human," the man said flatly. "She's a resource." The words hit Ethan like a punch. He looked at Leora, her body shaking, her eyes full of pain. Then something inside him snapped. He lunged forward, punching the guard and grabbing his weapon. A shot rang out, blue light flashed, and alarms screamed through the facility. The man in the coat shouted, "Stop him!" Ethan blasted the glass. It cracked, then shattered. Cold air rushed in. He ran to Leora, breaking the straps on her arms. "I've got you," he said. She looked at him weakly. "I knew you'd come." He helped her up. The machines around them sparked as the alarms blared louder. Red lights flashed through the corridors. As they reached the door, Leora turned back toward the glowing tubes. "They took my light," she whispered. Ethan held her close. "Then let's take it back." Behind them, the man in the coat yelled, "Seal the lab!" But it was too late. Leora's skin began to shine brighter than ever before. The walls shook. The machines melted. Ethan covered his eyes as a wave of white light exploded outward, cutting all power in the facility. When the smoke cleared, the lab was silent, and the alarms had stopped. The world was still white. White walls, white smoke, white silence. Ethan opened his eyes slowly, his ears ringing. The air smelled like metal and burned wires. Sparks fell from the ceiling like dying fireflies. The lab around him was half destroyed. Tables broken, glass shattered, machines melted into puddles of silver. He turned and saw Leora lying on the floor beside him. Her glow was faint, her breathing shallow. Ethan crawled to her side. Hey, stay with me." Her eyelids fluttered. "Ethan, we have to go. They'll send more." He nodded, helping her sit up. "Can you walk?" "Yes, but not for long." They moved through the ruins of the lab, stepping over debris. The emergency lights flashed red now, warning of system failure. Alarms still wailed faintly somewhere in the distance. When they reached the hallway, Ethan spotted 2 guards running toward them. He grabbed one of their fallen weapons from the floor, a strange rifle that hummed with blue energy, and aimed. "Stay back," he shouted. The guards hesitated. Leora raised her hand, and a thin wave of light shimmered through the air. The men froze mid-step, their weapons clattering to the ground. Ethan stared. "You did that?" Leora nodded weakly. "I borrowed their fear." He didn't understand what that meant, but he didn't have time to ask. He pulled her arm over his shoulder, and together they ran down the corridor. Each door they passed revealed more horror, glowing tubes filled with liquid, and inside them, others like her. Small, fragile figures floating silently, their light dim, their faces calm like they were sleeping. Leora stopped, pressing a hand to the glass. "They're my kin," she whispered. "They're alive, but trapped." Ethan's chest tightened. "We'll get them out." He tried to open the control panel, but the screen flickered with a password lock. Then one by one the tubes began to power down. "What's happening?" he said. Leora's eyes filled with tears. "They're cutting the energy. They will die." Ethan slammed his fist against the wall. No, we can't let that happen. Leora turned to him, her voice trembling. You must save yourself. If you stay, they will catch you again. I'm not leaving you, he said firmly. Not after everything. Before she could answer, the ground shook. A door at the end of the hall burst open, and a team of armored soldiers stormed in, led by the man in the black coat. His glasses were cracked, his expression calm as ever. I told you she was a resource, he said coldly. Now you've broken the entire facility. Ethan raised the blue rifle. Step away, the man laughed softly. Do you even know what she is? That light in her isn't just power, it's a map. A living code. It leads to her world, and all the energy we could ever need. Leora's eyes widened. You want to invade my home? The man smiled. Not invade, harvest. Something in Ethan snapped. He fired. The shot hit the floor near the man's feet, blowing a hole in the tiles. Smoke filled the corridor. Leora closed her eyes. Her glow returned, was brighter, stronger. Ethan, when I use the light again, it will open a gate. But it won't stay open for long. He looked at her, confused. A gate to where? To my world, she said softly. It's the only way to destroy what they've built. The soldiers opened fire. Blue bolts of energy ripped through the air. Ethan ducked behind a pillar covering Leora. The walls cracked and burst into flames. She reached out, touching his chest with glowing fingers. You gave me courage, Ethan. Now I give you a choice. Come with me. Or stay and fight for yours. He looked into her silver eyes, torn. I can't let you do this alone. She smiled faintly. Then we go together. Leora lifted her arms. Her body shone like a star, light spilling out of every part of her. The soldiers stopped firing, shielding their eyes. The man in the coat shouted, No! Don't let her, but it was too late. A huge pulse of light shot upward, tearing through the ceiling. The air cracked open like glass, revealing a swirling portal of blue and silver. Through it, Ethan saw another world. Tall silver trees, rivers of light, a sky full of stars. Leora turned to him. Go! Ethan grabbed her hand, and together they ran toward the portal. Behind them, the man in the coat raised his weapon. You can't escape me, he yelled, firing. The blast hit Ethan in the shoulder. He stumbled but didn't stop. Leora screamed, holding him tighter as they leapt into the light. Everything went silent. For a moment, Ethan felt nothing but warmth. Then cold, then wind. The sound of water, the smell of strange flowers. When he opened his eyes, they were standing in a field of silver grass under a purple sky. Leora fell to her knees, exhausted. We made it, she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her, holding her hand. Where are we? She smiled faintly. Home. He looked up and froze. Across the horizon, thousands of glowing towers flickered weakly. The world looked beautiful, but broken. What happened here? He asked. Leora's eyes filled with tears. We were too kind. We gave our light to others, and they took it all. A deep rumble echoed in the distance. The portal behind them flickered again, showing the dark silhouette of the man in the coat stepping through. Ethan stood up, gripping the weapon. Then it's not over yet. The air on the new world shimmered with silver mist. Ethan stood with his rifle ready, breathing hard, watching the glowing portal flicker behind them. Through the swirling light, the dark figure of the man in the coat stepped into Leora's world. His glasses were cracked and smoke curled from his jacket, but he still smiled, calm, cruel, and certain. This place is beautiful, he said softly. And it's dying. I'll save it. My way. Ethan raised the weapon. You don't belong here, the man laughed. Neither do you, human. But at least I have a purpose. Behind Ethan, Leora struggled to stand. The silver grass bent toward her like it recognized her. Light flowed from the ground into her feet, filling her body again. Her glow brightened until her shadow vanished. This is my home, she said quietly, and you won't touch it. The man lifted his arm. A small black device pulsed in his hand. This little thing carries your light frequency, he said. With it I can call the rest of my fleet. Soon your sky will belong to us. Leora's eyes glowed brighter. You learned our energy, but you never learned balance. Before he could reply, she lifted her hands. The air between them rippled like water and the ground cracked open. Beams of silver light shot upward, striking the dark clouds. The man stumbled backward, his device sparking. Stop, you'll destroy the portal. That's the point, she said. Ethan turned to her, alarmed. Leora, what are you doing? Her expression was calm but sad. The only way to stop them is to close the bridge between worlds. I must become the seal. He grabbed her arm. You'll die. She looked at him, soft silver eyes filled with warmth. We all die, Ethan, but not all of us live with meaning. You gave me mine, the man shouted. She's lying to you. Her power will erase everything, you, her, this world. Ethan aimed the rifle at him. I've heard enough, he fired. The blast hit the man square in the chest, throwing him back into the broken portal. The light swallowed him whole before the gateway began to collapse. Ethan turned to Leora. The wind howled now, pulling everything toward the swirling sky. Trees bent, silver dust rose like storms of stars. Don't do this, he begged. We can find another way. There is no other way, she said softly. But I can give you life again, in your world. She placed her glowing hand over his heart. The light spread across his chest, warm and alive. He felt his pain fade, his wounds close. What are you? Her voice was gentle. A gift of light. So you will remember me. The ground shook violently. The portal behind her grew larger, sucking in stones and air. Leora stepped toward it, her body glowing brighter with each step. Ethan reached out. Please, Leora. She turned one last time and smiled. That same calm, kind smile she had given him on the first night. You stopped when others would not. Keep stopping. Keep saving. Then she walked into the light. The entire sky exploded in color. Blue, silver, and white, swirling like a storm of stars. A wave of warmth swept across the land, blinding and silent. The portal folded into itself with a thunderous echo. Ethan was thrown backward, crashing into the grass. When he opened his eyes again, the sky was clear. The silver towers in the distance were glowing once more, strong, alive. The world was healing, but Leora was gone. He stood slowly, the silence heavy in his chest. Where she had stood, there was only a small silver pendant on the ground, glowing softly with her heartbeat. He picked it up and closed his fist around it. Then everything turned white. Ethan woke up in his truck, parked on the same desert road where it had all begun. The stars above were bright, the air still. He looked around in confusion. The sign was still there, the one that had once held a girl with a cardboard message. But now it was empty. He touched his chest. The pendant was still there, shining faintly. Leora, he whispered. A soft voice filled the air, not from outside, but from within his mind. I am not gone. I am light now. When you see the stars, you see me. He smiled through the tears. You kept your promise. The wind blew gently through the desert. For a moment he thought he saw a faint blue shape beside the road, a girl with silver eyes smiling. Then it vanished into the starlight. Ethan started the engine. The truck rumbled softly. As he drove down the endless road, the pendant pulsed in his hand, steady as a heartbeat. He looked up at the night sky and whispered, Your light's safe with me. The stars above flickered. Once, twice, like they were answering him. And somewhere beyond them, in a world made of silver light,